This is Reality Dispatch, written by Jim Mintz.
His birth name was Vincenzo, but everyone called him Steve. He insisted. He had changed his name by deed poll when he was 18, as soon as he was of age. He shamed his family with his ambivalence to their need for unity. But he was also ashamed of them for their deeds. In the end, no matter how many Christmas lunches he avoided, how many birthday celebrations, how many Easter dinners, he missed them. He feared for them. He feared for his father the most. Why they gotta die? Pop, he remembered complaining. He was 12. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when he stumbled upon a meeting between his father and 5 other colleagues in their entertainment room. "Vincenzo, get out of here," he yelled at the boy. The others all laughed as they chomped down on their cigars. It was only later in life that he came to understand that these men were the heads of the 5 families. They were discussing retributions against someone who had stolen from them. Possibly it was something else. "Strictly business," Pop had said to the boy later that night, after he found him crying into his pillow before bed. He thought the boy would understand. He thought he was old enough. The old man was the boy's age when his old father had relayed elements of the family business. The old man was wrong. Vincenzo wasn't ready. He would never be ready. Now he was Steve, to separate himself entirely from that world where death and evil prevailed. "You're a disgrace," yelled his brother Carlo. 6 years had passed. Vincenzo had come of age, and he had confronted the family about his plans. It was Christmas, he remembered that much. That and the response from his brother. "You bring shame upon this house and the entire family. You think our friends will understand? You think you can shame us like this and just walk away? What will Mama say? You're a disgrace. Get the hell out of my face. I don't want to see you ever again in this house." He spat on the floor as his wife held him back from attacking Vincenzo, now Steve, who had relayed his displeasure at the family business. Sicilian culture didn't take kindly to outsiders, to which the 21-year-old had become. The bold print on the newsstand was unmistakable. Steve had been walking down the street, coffee in hand, making his way to work. A job paid for by the education provided by his father and his blood money. He was drawn to the paper on this day, more so than any other. He never read the paper. It was unavoidable. It called him in like a magnet. "Mob boss shot to death," came the heavy-set print with an image of what he believed was his father face down on the driveway of their old home. He wept like he was 12 on the bed that was pressed against the door of his studio apartment. He called in sick, unable to complete his duties on the day that he had feared would finally arrive. He didn't receive so much as a call from his brothers or his sister. He was dead to them. Vincenzo had died a long time ago, and there was no Steve. He returned to the paper whenever his crying subsided, trying to will the facts into fiction. Maybe if he found a typo or other error, the entire story would fall apart. His father would still be alive. This was the reason why he cut himself off. The fear he held in his chest was tighter than a ball of wire, and he carried it every day. Their world was dangerous. He envied the other kids with their politician fathers or parents who were doctors or lawyers. They all lived with privilege, but at least there wasn't a risk of murder for them. "Pop, I don't want you to die," he remembered saying that night. He cried into his pillow. He was 12 again. "Your pop isn't going to die, Vincenzo," he said, patting the boy's head. "Do not stress yourself with these matters." The boy held his hand tightly against his cheek. "But if you do these things to other people, how do you know they won't do these things back to you?" the boy asked. The man caressed his son. "I just know, and so should you," he said with a smile and a peck on the forehead. "Your father is a very powerful man, Vincenzo. With power comes respect. Respect can buy you a lot in this world, and it's very hard to come by. Respect grants you wealth, knowledge, resources, like this house and all the toys you love so much. Respect also buys you your life and protection of it. Do you understand me, boy?" the old man explained. With tears in his eyes, the young boy nodded. That was it. The last time the matter was spoken of again. The boy lived another 6 years in the compound that overlooked the harbor until he was old enough to remove himself. He never showed his face again until his father's funeral, which he discovered would be in 1 week's time. Respect had an expiration date. He sat on the bed and held on to the memory of the affection his father had shown. He wondered about his brothers, the beneficiaries of the destruction his father had fostered. He wondered about their fate, how they would not rest until the culprits of this catastrophe had been eliminated. Then he wondered what would be of their lives in a world where enemies live amongst you, waiting for the day when you take your kids to school. Drop them off at the gate, alone and vulnerable on a quiet suburban street. He felt the knot in his chest tighten. He stood at the train station and waited for the C to Denton Park. The clouds rested over the platform, and he looked up at them, trying to make shapes from their outlines, finding it difficult due to their density. The train was due in 33 minutes. The trip was to take an hour and 10 minutes. He wore his only suit, which was damp and mothballed. He wondered how welcome he would be. He wondered if he would be allowed to sit amongst them in the front rows of the church. He wondered if the casket would be closed. He wondered how well his emotions would hold up when he saw the box. The rain began to fall just as it did that Saturday afternoon, when the heads of the 5 families gathered in their entertainment room and smoked their stogies and Cubans. They talked business. Vincenzo wondered if there was any link to the business discussed all those years ago and the fate of his father the previous week. Then he remembered that his name was Steve.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimmins.substack.com.